I'd like to continue on now with an example using both the if and the else keyword in the Python programming language to describe a branching statement. So let's imagine that we're writing a program that's sort of a virtual server in the waitstaff sense. So you're at the table and you're taking somebody's order, and there's some sort of variable that's important to us, which is the age of our patron. Because as we know, in the United States, you may drink alcohol if you're over the age of 21, including equal to the age of 21. But if you are less than the age of 21, then you're not allowed to drink alcohol. So a little nod to our Wisconsin nature. We have some sort of variable called age, and our server asks, would you like a beer with dinner? From this point onward, we're going to branch because we want to do different things based on whether or not that person is over the age of 21. If the value we have stored inside of the age variable is a number that is greater than or equal to 21, then we can let our user know that we're happy to oblige and bring them a good old Wisconsin beer. However, if this user is under the age of 21, then, because we're a server and we're polite, we would like to tell them that they cannot have a beer and perhaps offer them a soda instead. So those are the two branches. We want to print one thing to the screen if the age of our user is greater than or equal to 21, and we want to print something different to the screen if our user is under the age of 21. Notice that we see those straight lines that Python is showing us. We know that this command right here belongs to this if statement because it is indented. And then the flow of control returns to normal when we first type something that falls in line with where the if is. We've ended this block of code by breaking that indentation. Then, because we've ended this block of code, we're free to begin a new block of code that belongs to the else branch, and that block of code is ended right here with this print statement. This print statement is in line with both the if and the else, and so this statement right here belongs to neither branch. So this line of code will be printed because that's before any of the branching. What is printed to the screen will depend on the contents inside of age. In this example, we'll enter the if statement, and then none of this code will be executed. But no matter which branch we walk down, our code will print, would you like soup or salad with your entree to the console, no matter which branch we've gone down, because this line of code is back to the regular sequential flow of control of our program. It's worth noting that if the age here were 18, then our flow of control would go from this line. It would hit this if statement to check if this condition is met, and because this statement in this example is false, we will skip this line of code, automatically enter the else block of code, and execute these two lines of code. To see an example utilizing the if, elif, and else reserve words, let's move to something that naturally has three choices, like rock, paper, and scissors. Over here I have a diagram for a very basic rock, paper, scissors game, and over here the code that corresponds to it. So we could imagine prompting the user to input one of three words, either rock, paper, or scissors. We could then assign to the variable your choice whatever word the user enters. That would correspond to the start of our flowchart right over here. We then proceed to say the chant, rock, paper, scissors, shoot, which our computer program can do. And from there, we need to check what the user entered to determine a winner. If the user entered rock, then the only thing that could beat them would be paper. However, if the user did not select rock, we don't want to treat all possible remaining cases equally. To us, there are more cases to consider, and the winner will change based on further decisions we need to make. Therefore, we want to ask another question. If we get to the elif portion of the code, we want to say, was your choice paper? If so, we'll declare the winner scissors. And then, given that there are only 3 choices, if the user did not select rock, and if the user did not select paper, our else clause, although it doesn't explicitly check to see if your choice is equal to scissors, it assumes that it must be so since there are only 3 choices in our example, and we set the winner equal to rock. Then no matter which block of code was executed, in the end, we'd like to announce the winner. So we print to the console, the winner is, followed by the value that's inside the variable winner. Last but not least, with this rock, paper, scissors example, I'd like to make sure that I'm being clear on how the flow of control executes through this program. So when we begin getting to this first branch, no matter what, we always make it to this if statement. So our flow of control is moving sequentially from this line to this line to this line. We will always perform a check of whether or not this statement is true or false. In the event that this statement is true, our next step is to execute the block of code that corresponds to the if statement. And once this block of code is finished, because we've answered true to some branch, we know that we have not traveled down any of the other branches. We therefore skip both the elif and the else statement, and the flow of control immediately jumps to printing the winner. If we return back to this line of code where we checked this statement for truth, let's imagine for a moment that this statement was false. We know then that the block of code corresponding to the if statement is not executed, and the next line of code to be executed would be to check this elif statement for its truth value, and we then repeat the process we did with the if statement. Should your choice being equal to paper evaluate to be a true statement, we execute the block of code that corresponds to the elif, and there's no need to check any other branches for whether or not we travel them, so our flow of control immediately jumps to this print statement at the end. And last but not least, if we return to when we checked this elif statement for its truth value, should it have been the case that it evaluated to false, then we would know that we must be in this final else statement. We would execute the block of code that corresponds to the else statement, and then, like all other cases, our flow of control would return to printing the winner.